Okay, going live in 3, 2, 1. What is happening, guys? In this video, we're going to create a simple, basic landing page for a restaurant. So we're just going to create a website using HTML5 and CSS3. We're not going to use any JavaScript. We will use Flexbox and CSS Grid. And if you ever wanted to get started by creating a simple web page, then this is the video for you. And also, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel because I'll be putting out content like this every week. And if you like this kind of content, then also don't forget to hit that notification bell, and that will notify you whenever I post a new video. Okay, so let's check out what we're going to create in this video, and then let's get started. Okay guys, so in this video we're going to create this simple landing page of a restaurant. We're going to name it La Mama Restaurant. And we will have up here a simple navigation menu. And if we scroll down, then we have an About section with a short history. We also have this Read More. If we hover over it, then this full history will appear. And when we scroll down, we will also have this Menu section where we will have our menu items. So what you can order in this restaurant. Further down, we will have a Contact section. And also, if you want to place a reservation, you can fill out your name, how many people they're going to come. You can type in the number of the persons, or just click here, and also negative numbers. That is cool. You can also type in then the date and time of the reservation. So if you click here, you can go up with the date or down. Also change the time to the minute. And if you click here, you can also choose from a calendar. And down here we'll have a simple message box where you can type anything you want. We are hungry. And just hit send then. Okay, you have to also fill out your name. So all of this will be required in order to send this message. And down here we will have a basic footer section. Also, this website will be responsive, so we will use media queries. And let's start from the top. So first of all, the navigation. At 768, the navigation will disappear. Then let's take a look at the About section. When we hit 760 pixels, the image will disappear. And if we go up and go to the menu, when we hit 760 pixels, 68 pixels, the image will slide into the background of the menu. It also will have a gradient color, and the description will change from black to white, and the contact section will just wrap. Okay, so let's get started with the tutorial. I'll be using Visual Studio Code. You can use any code editor you want. This is just the one that I prefer. And for this, I'm gonna just minimize this and create a new folder. I'll call it Restaurant Web Page. And now just drag and drop it within here. Let's create a new file, index.html, a style.css, and we will also use Font Awesome and Google Fonts for our font styles. And as always, you can find the entire code in the description below. Okay, so let's create a quick boilerplate by hitting Shift 1. Then name our page, Restaurant. Actually, Mama Restaurant. Now let's link up our style sheet. And for this, we're just typing a link tag, then style sheet. .css. Now I will copy in the links to the Font Awesome CDN and also the Google font styles. You can find all of them in the description below, so the links where you can find them. Now let's continue on by creating our Navbar section. And I'm actually just going to comment this out. So Let me just first comment out each of the section that we're going to create. So this would be the navigation. Section. Then let's copy this a few more times. Then we will have our header section. Then the about section. The menu section. The contact section. And the footer section. Okay, let's get started with the navigation section. And for this, I'm just going to create a nav tag with the class of nav container. Then we will create a empty div, and within here we'll create a UL, a UL and an unordered list, and we'll give this a class of nav items. Within the unordered list, we'll create a few list items. Then within the list items, we'll create an anchor tag, and the first will be, we'll give this a ID of home. Actually, the href of home, because we'll link this up with the ID of home. So each time we will click on, we just open up our, so if I would be down here and click on this will scroll up to the home section. I'll click on the about, this will scroll to the about section, then the menu section, and the contact section. So our navigation is actually linked up to each section of the page. Actually, let me also open this up using live server. So right click open with live server, and this will open it out in the port 5501, because we already have opened up our other in the 5500. Let me actually make this smaller and just size it up here. Now for this anchor tag, we will also give this a class of nav items. Actually, nav item and then left, because this right here will be this part of the code. So we have a left part of the navigation and a right part of the navigation. Now within our anchor tags, we'll type in La Mama Restaurant. And then underneath of our first li, we'll create another div. And we'll give this the class, actually I'm just going to copy this class. The class of, this should be a bracket, and this would be right. And within this div, the class of nav item right, will leave our next lis with the href of about, and within here we type in about, and we'll also give this, now we will copy this 2 more times, and this would be, the second will be for the menu. So this will send us to the menu section of the page, and this to the contact. Now this is basically it for our navigation. Let's go into the header section. Within our header section, we'll create a header tag, and we'll give this a class of header and also the ID of home. So when we will click this this will send us to this section. So we will click La Mama Restaurant in our navigation. It will send us to our header section, so back home. Now we'll create a section tag and we'll give this the class of background image, background img. Within our section tag, we'll now create a div with a class of title and within this div with a class of title, we'll create a h1 with a class of header title and we'll type in here La Mama. So this h1 will actually be this right here, and we'll copy this h1, replace it with an h2, and within here we'll type in restaurant and also header subtitle. And that's basically it for our header section. Now, let's continue on with our about section. So this would be this part right here. For this, we're going to create another section tag and we'll give this the ID of about. And within our section tag, now we'll create the first div with a class of about content, then left. Because I want to display this as a grid, so check this out. So this is actually displayed as grid and it has a left and a right section. Now after our div with the content of left, we'll create another div. Actually, I could just copy this, paste it right here, and we'll call this right. And now let's populate our right side of the content. And for this, we're going to create an h1 with the class of about title. And we'll type in here about us. After this, we're going to create an h5 with the class of about subtitle. We'll type in family business since 1927. Now we will leave this h5, and underneath of this we'll create a paragraph tag with the class of about text. And this is actually where our text from right here will live. So we created this h1, this h5, now we'll create this. For this, I'm just going to type in some dummy tags with lorem 300. And then another paragraph tag with the same class. So just go up here, copy the about text class again, and assign it to our second paragraph tag. We'll type in within here lorem 100. After our second paragraph tag, we'll create an anchor tag with the class of read more. We'll leave the href empty, just a hash. And within this anchor tag, we'll create a label tag for the more. And we'll type in here, read more. Dot, dot, dot. Now after this section, I will just create an HR tag, and this is actually for a line break. You can always see this line break appearing right here. Now after this, we'll create our menu section. So let's create a section tag again. And we'll give this the ID of menu. Within our menu section, we'll create an H1 with the class of menu title. And we'll type in within here our menu. Then we will create an H4 with the class of menu items, actually menu item. And we also need to wrap this in another section class. And we'll call this class menu content. And let's cut this out and paste it in after H4. Now underneath our H4, we'll now create a paragraph tag with a class, and we'll assign this a class of menu item description. So we can actually copy this class right here, paste it in here, and type in description. And for this, I'm just going to type in a lorem 10, and after that, a 5.5, so $5.50. Actually, let me wrap this 550 within a span tag, because I want to style it further on as bold. Or we could just turn this span tag into a B tag, and this would automatically display as bold. Or there was another tag, strong, exactly the strong tag. This is more HTML5. Okay, let's copy this 5 more times. And let's start replacing the second one with a lorem 7. And here's 750. Then this one with a lorem 5. This should be 1050. Then lorem 9, 750 or 650, and lorem 5 again, and 150. And now going back to our H4, we'll start typing out these titles right here. Actually just copy them. So for breakfast, and then I'm going to copy the H4 tag and paste it after a paragraph tag, and copy this one in. Then copy this H4 tag again. And also here, and also here. Let's start replacing them now. Scrambled eggs. I think after this tutorial I have to eat something because I'm already hungry. And this. Okay, so we have this created. Now, staying within our second section, we'll now create another section tag. And this should have the class of menu image. And now we'll create an image tag And now let's go back in here, create an image folder. So this is where our images will live. And you can download these images from the description below. Now let's copy in our restaurant image, our menu image, this is the about image, and that's actually all of it. Okay, let's close this up. This image up, and now we can continue with our content section. So now let's actually give this a source. So the source will be image, and here we chose the menu image. So this one, and we'll style this in our CSS, so it will make this smaller. Now go down to the content section, and within here we'll create another section tag. Give this the ID of content, a contact. Now create an H1, we'll just type in here contact. Then underneath our H1, create a paragraph tag. We'll type in here lorem 100. Then create, just check this out, another paragraph tag, and then a strong tag. And within here, we'll type in, you can also contact us by phone. We'll just type in here an imaginary number, or email us at lamama@restaurant.com, or you can send us a message here. Now after the paragraph tag, we'll create another H2. We'll type in here restaurant. Another H2 will create a form tag now. The action will leave blank, but we'll give this a class of contact form. Now within our form tag, we'll create an input with a type of text, and for the placeholder, we'll type in name. So we go down here. So we created this input tag. Then we will also assign it as required. Actually, this should be within our input tag. So this should be required, and we'll give this a name of name. So this is our first input, and we actually had to create 1, 2, 3, 4 input tags. So we'll copy this 3 more times. The second one will be number. So the type of the input tag will be number. The placeholder will be how many people. The name will be people. Then the third input tag will be date. And we will also give this a class of date. And actually, we will wrap this within a div with the class of datetime. So this input tag right here, our third one. And before the input, we'll create a label tag for the date. And then give this a class of date. And within here, we will type in reservation date and time. So this would be the label for our datetime picker right here. Now we'll change this type of the input tag to datetime local. And this will give you the local date and time. And you could also assign this a value of your actual value. So 2020 second and 60 T 20 and 20. Let's change the name to date. The placeholder should be date and time. And this is pretty much it for this input tag. Now for our last input tag, we will leave it as text. For the placeholder, we'll type in message slash special requirements. We will also leave this as required, and for the name we will type in message. And the last thing that we need, staying within our form tag, is a button. And we'll give this a class of message button. So message btn. And we'll give this a type of submit. So this will turn into a submit button. And for the message within here, we'll type in send message. Now for our last section, this would be the footer section. We'll just create a footer tag with the class of footer. Then create a paragraph tag, and within here we'll type in powered by, and then an anchor tag. Then type in my name, Menhart, and within a span tag, media. Then after the span tag, I'll type in the sign for the copyright. So ampersand copy, and then 2020. And that's pretty much it for our HTML. Okay, now let's jump into our CSS and start styling this. Now let's make first of all a general reset. And for this, we're going to target the entire HTML, the before and the after. And we'll take out all the margin and all the padding, so margin 0, heading 0, Then we'll assign the box sizing to border box, the font size to 16 pixels. And this will reset the entire font size for the entire web page. So you can already see that the H1s and the H2s are resized to the same font size. Now we'll take out the list styles and the text decoration. So list style none and text decoration none. And in order to have this, so if I click on this about, you can see it scrolls really smoothly. For this we will just type in scroll behavior smooth. If I would take this out, it would jump down to the next section. It would be a really abrupt jump, not a smooth one. Okay, now we'll take our body tag and we'll assign this a font family of Times New Roman, and also let me actually just copy this in this font family. So Times New Roman, Georgia, and Serif. And we'll display the entire body as block. Now I'm going to take all the H1s, H2s, H3s, H4s, H5s, and H6s and assign them a font family which you can get from Google Fonts of Playfair Display. And I will also give them a letter spacing of 5 pixels. Let's jump back into our HTML and let's take care of the navigation. So the first thing we're going to style, also put in a comment here, navigation. So we take the class of navContainer and we'll display this as block. Then we'll assign it a width of 100% of its container, a height of 60 pixels, and actually let me take care of the color, background color of #FFF, and a box shadow of 0, 2 pixels, 5 pixels, 0, and a RGBA of 0, 0, 0, 0, and 0.8. So there's our box shadow. Now after this we will position the navigation fixed. And we'll also give this a Z index of 1. So it would be always, if I scroll down, it would be always above the content, because if I take this out, comment this out, I'll try to scroll. And if I have something that is above the 1, so the Z index of 1, it will scroll over the navigation. So leave this one in. We'll also give this an overflow of hidden. So scroll bar won't appear there. And a letter spacing of 4 pixels. So everything that's in the navigation will have a letter spacing of 4 pixels. Okay, now within our nav container, so I'm just going to copy our class again. We will not take care of the nav items. So let's copy this class and paste it in here. And we'll display this as grid. So let's take a look at what we are displaying as grid. The nav items are composed of 2 child. So this parent element is composed of this li child, so direct descendant, and this div, direct descendant. So when I'm going to display this as grid, I'm actually going to target only these 2 items. Now I'm going to divide them up with grid template column in 40% and 60%. So this is now 40% and this is 60%. Now I'm going to justify the content to the center and also align the items to the center. And I want all of the items to take up a height of 100% of their container. Now within this container, let's take our first item. So this one right here, our left item. And actually I could just type in this class, but I want you guys to really know where it's placed. So within the nav container, within the nav items, the nav item that is to the left. So let's take this nav left and let's just give it a margin from the left of 1.5 rem. And this will push our item 1.5 rem to the right. So from the left, 1.5 rem. Now let's take this, copy it, but now the right part. And this one, I will give a margin from the right of 1.5. This would push it 1.5. Actually, let me just comment this out and display it first of all as flex. Now flex bar, flex. So now they are flexed in a row. And now we'll justify the content as flex end. This will push all my items to the right. And if I comment this one out now, or comment it back in, the 1.5 rem pushed to the left. Now within our nav container, let's take all of the LIs, all of the list items. So let's go back into our HTML. So all of these list items that live in this nav container, and let's give them a padding of 0.5 rem. You already see it's pushed just down a bit, so they have an all-around padding of 0.5 rem. Now I'm going to take this class again, but now I'm going to target all of the anchor tags. I'm going to display them as block. Now change the color to #333. I'll increase the font size to 1.2 rem of the base font, and I don't know if you know this or not, but this 1.2 rem, this is actually this 16 pixels times 1.2. And I'm also going to increase the font weight to 500. Now let's change the background color. So when I hover over the anchor tags, and from this we're going to copy this and type in hover. So when we hover over them, I want the background color to change to a light gray. So let's take a look at this. So they're changing the background, only the background color to a light gray. And also let's give this an all-around padding of 0.5 rem. So all of the anchor tags. Okay, so that's it for our navigation part. Now I'm going to also include the header, so style the header section. And then after each section, I'm going to tackle the media queries, so they're going to make the section responsive. Okay, so now for the header, you're going to take the header tag and position this relative, because I want to position some items within this tag as absolute, and therefore the parent tag must be positioned relative. Also going to give this a max width of 1200 pixels, height auto, and margin auto. So let me actually make this smaller. And now within our header tag, let's copy this, delete this part out. I'm going to target our class of BG image. Let's take a look in our HTML. And we are actually targeting header section, this class right here, that is containing the title and the subtitle. Now I'm going to give this, so first of all I'm going to position it relative. Now give it a height of 800 pixels. You can also already see this taking action right here. And now give it a background image with the URL. I'm going to select our image from our image folder. This right here, so the restaurant image. Now in order to position this correctly, we'll go position, background position to the center. Then the background size should be cover. And we don't want this to repeat, so we're going to type in background repeat, no repeat. So let me just make this larger. You can see it's exactly in the center of the page. Okay, now let's take care of our two titles right here. So the title and the subtitle. So let me just take the class first of all. So this div that contains these two, title and subtitle. So copy this class, paste it in. So I'm typing in header text, within the header tag, the class of title. Now I'm going to position this now absolute. So I could give this a width of 100% of its container from the top. Well, actually, let me first of all style the title. So within this, we are going to take the header title. So this class of header title. You're going to increase the font size to 10 rem. Here is the color of white. Actually, get the color up here. So both of them will have the same color. And now I'm going to start positioning the container of this title and subtitle. Title. So there's our title and subtitle. Now I'm going to continue on positioning them. So I want them from the top to be 50%. From the left, also 50%. Text align center. And I'm going to push them back in by transform. Typing transform, translate. And this means that is on the X and Y axis. So minus 50, I'm going to push them back. Then here, minus 50%. And this is on the X axis and minus 50% on the Y axis. And this would put our H1s and H2 in the center of the page. So let's check this out. Yep, this is working correctly. Now going into our title again, I will change the font family to Lobster. And now the same thing for our subtitle. So let's take this class right here. Subtitle, go back into our CSS, copy it in right here as a class and change the rem to 4. Take out the font family and position this with a margin top of 30 viewport heights. Okay, now let's take care of the responsiveness of the header section and our menu section. So this will be menu and header response. And for this, we're going to create a media query for the screen and the max width of 768 pixels. So when we reach 768 pixels, we want the title. So this class, these two classes right here, the title and the subtitle, to change their font size to, first of all, 6 rem, and the subtitle, we want the subtitles. Let me actually just make this smaller so we can see this already happening, and the subtitle will leave the font size as it is, but we'll push it down 35 viewport heights. Now let's take care of the menu. And for this, we're going to take the container. So this right here, go back into our media query. And we're going to display this as inline block. We'll align the text to the center. And for our second, so for item, now we still can see that this right part, the right part is still there. We'll take that, nav items, and the class of nav items right, and we'll display them as none. Okay, next up we will take care of the about section of the page. And for this, I'm going to take the ID of about. So target the ID of about. We're going to display it as grid. We'll give this a grid template column of repeat 2 times 1FR. You already see this taking change. I think I have too much lorem ipsum within here, so let me just delete some of it. There's actually too much dummy text within here. Now let's set the margins to 6 rem top and bottom and auto left and right. I will position this relative. And give it a height of 95 viewport heights. Let me actually just scroll down a bit. And we will also give it a margin from the top, so it will push down a bit, of 15 viewport heights. Now let's take care of the left part of the page. So of this, you can see it's actually, we didn't type in our HTML any image. That is because we're going to insert it through CSS. So let's get back to our web page. And take our class Just delete another bit of text from here. So let us take this class of about content left. And we'll assign this a max width of 100%, a height of 80%. And now we'll give this a background. Actually, I could copy all of this. Background image. And we'll change the image to this one. We will also position this relative and give it a margin from the left of 2 rem. Okay, now let's take care of the right part of the page. For this, we're going to copy this class of about content right. And we'll first of all align the text to the center, so text align center, and give it an all around margin of 1 rem. Now within our about content right, we will now target the about title. So take the class of about title. We'll increase the font size to 2 rem. Then we'll give it a margin from to the bottom of also of 3 rem. So this will push our content down. Now we'll take on our subtitle. Actually, it's a thumb dash. The subtitle, and we will change its font size to 1.5 rem and give it a margin to the bottom of just 2 rem. And now for the text, so copy this again, about text. We'll leave the font size as it is, so at 16 pixels, but we will give this a margin from the top of 0.5 rem. Give it a padding top and bottom of 0 and left and right 1 rem. We'll also increase the line height to 1.5 and we'll change the color to dark gray. It's actually far too large. I inserted too much text. Let me just delete a bit of this dummy text. Till it's almost even. Okay, that's much better. Yep. So going back on CSS, we'll now take care of this part. So we created this label with read more and give it also a class of read more. Now we'll take this class, and when we hover over it, we want the text decoration to be underlined. So let's take a look. It's underlined. And now I'm going to assign it a after. So when we hover over it, we want after. So after we hover, not after we hover it, but we'll create some content after we hover over it. And we just type in here, content, read more, or full history. So let's take a look. If you hover over it, this full history appears. Okay, so let's take care of this with some media queries and make it responsive. So we type in again media query, media at screen, and max width of 768 pixels. And we want, when the screen hits this size, the ID of about to have a grid template column, because it's already displayed as grid, but it will overwrite it to 1FR. So if I go to 700, this displays in only one column. And now I want this to disappear, and for this I'm just going to target that class again, so the about content left, and going to display this as none. So only the text will remain. Okay, next up is the menu section of the page. So this one right here. Now let's take our ID of menu. And actually, let me put in a comment, menu section. Take the ID of menu. And we'll display this also as grid. And we'll assign it a grid template column of, again, repeat 2 times 1FR. 2 times 1 fractions of a page. And we'll give this a margin of 6 rem top and bottom and 2 rem left and right. So let's go down here. So this would be this part of the page. Now going back into HTML, we'll take the menu content. And when we display this as grid, so this is the parent, the ID, we displayed actually this section, which ends here, and this section. There's 2 items, so this and this. These are 2 items, 2 children of the parent of ID, with ID of menu. Now let's take the class of menu content and change the background color to a light gray. And I will also give it a bit of padding of 2 rem for top, bottom, left and right. Now let's take the menu title and increase its font size to 2 rem. So this menu title right here. We'll give this a text align. Actually, let me leave this 700 pixels. Text align to the center. And margin. So let's create some distance between our title and our subtitles. And for this, we're going to give the title margin to its bottom of 2 rem. Now, in order to create these small lines right here, I just use a menu before and a menu after. And now you just type in here content and one line. And this will assign a line before and after the content. Now for the menu item description, I just gave them a margin from the top of 0.5 rem, and this would push down the items from their title. Now let's take care of the image. And for this, we're going to just take the class of menu image, and we'll give this a width of 100% of its container. Actually, the image within this. So we took the class of menu image, which wraps around this image tag. Then we took the tag. The tag itself should have 100% of its container. And because the container is within a grid system of 1FR, 1FR, when I give this image tag 100% of its container, then it's going to stay within this 100%. Okay, now let's make this responsive. So add media. Actually, I could just copy this one in, so I don't have to constantly type in media. We'll take the ID of menu and we'll display it as 1FR. So let's take a look. It jumps into one column. Okay, now we'll take the class of media image and display it as none. But in order for us to achieve this overlay, we're going to insert the image in the class of menu content. So within this entire container, within this entire section. So we will take actually almost what is here and copy it within here. And now let's change the image first of all. We will give this a Z index of 2 because you will see, actually I'm going to comment this first of all out, and I'm going to show you later on why we're doing this. And now we can actually go to the menu and change the Z index to value to 3. This should be always on top of all of the content, because if I leave this at 1 and this is at 2, when I scroll this will overlap this, so I will leave it at 3. Okay, let's go back down here in our menu, and we also want we don't need this margin left, but what we do need is to increase the font size to 1.5 rem. Also the line height to 1.5. The color should be now hash FFF, so white color. And also let's take the border radius and give it a 50 pixel 0, 50 pixel and 0. So 50 pixel, so the first one is up left, then top right 0, then bottom right is 50 pixels again, and bottom left is 0. Okay, next up we're going to take the menu content, this class again, and then we're going to target the before, and we will leave the content empty. And we'll assign this a height of 100%, a width of 100%, then a background color of a RGBA, this, and now I'm going to decrease the opacity to 65. Now I'm going to position this absolute. So this is actually this overlay. Now you can see it. Now I want it to be the top 0 and left also 0. It's completely over our content. Now let's take care of the borders. We will type in border radius of 50 pixels, 0, 50 and 0. And in order to push it back, I'm just going to give this a z index of -1, and now give this a z index of 2. And now you can decrease this opacity to whatever you want. So let's try 5 or 4. So just leave it as you want. A bit of the image should be seen, but it shouldn't interfere with our text right here. This is really important. In order to position this absolute, we need to position this relative. Okay, now let's take care of the content, of the context section of the page. So let's create another comment, context section. Now let's take our ID of contact, assign it a margin, a margin. Let's assign it a margin of 3 rem top and bottom and 0 left and right. This will push down the context section to 3 rem and also create 3 rem down here. Now let's take the ID of contact and we will give this a margin of top and bottom 3 rem and left and right 2 rem. Let me actually make this larger. And actually I forgot to wrap the entire contact within a section with a class of contact. Let's take this section and wrap it in after our form. Now within the class of contact, we'll take the h1 and give this a margin from the top of 3 rem and bottom and 0 left and right. Now let's increase the font size to 2 rem. Now again in the contact class, we'll take the paragraph tags and we'll just give them a margin from the bottom of 1 rem Now if we go back in our HTML, we'll now take this H2 from the restaurant so again within the ID of contact, we'll take the H2 and change its font size to 1.5 rem, and now we'll give it a margin of 2 rem, 0, 2 rem, and 2 rem again. Now let's take the class of our form, so the contact form, and within this we're going to target the input tags, and we'll display them all as block, and this will push them down underneath of each other because as default they are displayed as inline. We'll take out now the borders, so we'll type in border none, This will get rid of the borders. We'll give them a width of 100% of their container. So now they are actually, let me just comment out the borders so you can see this. Now they are 100% of the container, so the entire width of the container within the page. I'll give them a border to the bottom of 1 pixel, solid, and gray. Now, in order to have a bit of distance, I will just give them a all-around padding of 1 rem and a margin of 1 rem. Now let's take this class of contact form and the inputs, and when we focus the inputs, we want the border to be displayed as none. So we have our border bottom of 1 pixel solid gray, but if we click on them, they will disappear. Now we'll take the class of contact form, and within this, the class of datetime. Now we will display this as grid. So let's just take a look in our HTML what we're doing here. So we're taking this class of datetime, this div, which contains this parent element, contains this child element, this label, and this input tag as child element. Now we're going to display them as grid. And we'll give them a grid template column of 50% and 50%. And we'll justify the content to the center and align the items also to the center. And something went wrong here, so let me just take a look. Contact form, datetime. Display the label and the input tag. Okay, there's the problem. Display as grid. Now it's working. Okay, next up we're going to take the label tag. So within our contact form, datetime class, the label tag. We're going to display this as block. Now give it a margin from the left of 1 rem. We'll change the font family to the same font family that we assigned actually the H1s and the H2s. We'll give it a gray color. We'll also give this a border to the bottom of 1 pixel. Actually, just copy this in. So border bottom 1 pixel solid gray. And I'll give it this a padding of 1 rem. Now we'll take the btn right down here. So the button tag with the class of btn message. And now let's style it a bit. So we'll take out its border. Display border none. Then we will display it as inline block. We'll change the color of the text to the hash of 111. The background color, we'll assign it to a hash of B4, B2, and B2. We'll increase the font size to 1.2 rem. We give it a all-around padding of 1 rem and 2 rem. Actually 1.2 rem. Okay, take this out. Want the cursor when we hover over it to be pointer. So this is taking effect, and we'll give it a margin from the left of also 2 rem. This is pushed to the left with 2 rem. And now we want, when we hover over it, so take the class of message btn and assign it hover, and we will take this out, and we'll just change the color to this and the background to 111. So we hover over it, the color changes. Actually, I could leave the color at FFF. Not the background color, but this color. Okay, so this is it. And now the last thing we have to do is style our footer. So we're going to grab onto the footer class. I have a typo there. It should be footer. So it doesn't matter if you grab onto the class or to the tag. I'm just going to grab onto the class. We'll give it a margin from the top of 1 rem. And let's first of all change the background color to this color right here. Then we'll change the display color to #111. We'll give this a height of 60 pixels. A width of 100%. Then we'll position this relative. We'll increase the font size to 1.5 rem. We'll change the font family to Sage UI. We'll give this a text align to the center, a font weight of 500, and a Z index of 3. And now we could also change the span. So because we wrap this media within a span, so this one, I'm just going to copy this class. Within this class, the span tag, and change the color to white, so #FFF. I will change the text. I'll give it the text transform to uppercase and a font size of only 1.1 rem. And there we go. So that's it for our web page. Let's take a look at it, at how this finally looks. If we go down, then this disappears. This changes into a card. The menu items disappear. And this is also responsive. Okay guys, that's it for this tutorial. Hope you enjoyed this content. If you did, thumbs up. If you didn't, thumbs down. Please subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content like this, and it also helps out my channel a lot. And don't forget to hit that notification bell if you want to get notified whenever I post new content. So thanks a lot and see you next time. Bye bye.